Yo, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm very pleased to announce the release of my new frame, the HaloRC Horus. As you will have seen over the last 6 months or so, I've released a Naked Blackmagic 4K and a Naked Blackmagic 6K, but the whole time I've released those and been selling those, I haven't actually been selling a frame to carry them. One main reason for that is that I just don't sell anything that I'm not happy with, and because this is a much larger platform than I'm used to, I needed to take my time and explore different ways of constructing the frame to find what I think is the optimal frame geometry and size and layout for carrying a naked cinematic camera. So it was 10 months ago when I started designing naked cameras, and obviously I wanted to design a frame to carry them as well, and needed to design a frame to test the cameras. So I quickly put together a frame that I knew would work but maybe wouldn't be optimal, and that's what me and my sponsored pilot Andrew Lawrence we have been using to test and develop the cameras. Now it works both ways. You can't really design a frame to carry a camera if you don't have the camera, and you can't really design the camera if you don't have a frame. But the way I did it and the way I figured is that the frame doesn't have to be amazing to develop the camera as good as possible. But now that I've got those two cameras all locked in and working perfectly, I was able to then concentrate my efforts on designing the frame as best I can to carry those cameras. Now I am actually currently working on a couple more naked cameras, but I needed to put that on hold for now so I could fully put my efforts into finishing off my frame. Okay, so I wanted to come up here so I could give you a bit of a closer look at the frame. Obviously, as you can see, it kind of looks like it's upside down, with a normal frame looking like this with a skinny top plate on top, but it is actually meant to be this way around. What this does is just provide a much wider platform for the camera to sit on top of, and it also raises the motors up so that the prop line is closer to all the weight, which will be the camera and the LiPo, which is all going to be sat on top there. So by running it upside down means you can put all your components underneath all the mass of the weight, and providing this nice wide stable platform to mount the camera to. While I'm talking about that, it has the 90 by 124 millimeter naked camera mounting pattern. So any naked cinematic camera on the market would mount on those points. And as you can see from a top down view, I've managed to create almost true X. It's just slightly off the X axis. This helps retain some of the flight characteristics of a 5-inch freestyle setup, because X frames just fly a lot better than H frames. The next obvious feature is this carbon fiber FPV camera mount. This is the same sort of thing that I've been using for about 5 years now. Originally first put on my Archon V1, the first frame I ever designed, and I've just been refining it ever since. I love mounting my FPV cameras in a vertical carbon cage like this. This rounded edge here means that no matter what angle you put the camera at, you don't get any carbon in view. With standoffs at the front there, you always get the tops of the standoffs in view, or this has to be really wide and make the whole thing wider than it needs to be. So yeah, this is my preferred method of mounting the FPV camera. There's a cutout there that you fit this TPU plug that has through holes for your bolts for mounting DJI camera, Nebula Pro, or any micro-sized analog camera if you wanted to go that route. In the center of the frame here, you can see it's just 30 by 30 mounting pattern, and you've got just over 20 millimeters of height to build with. If you struggle to get your stack all on single bolts, there are actually mounting holes in the bottom plate as well, so you could split the stack, have your ESC there and your flight controller there. We've been playing around with that, don't really see any benefit in terms of noise, but yeah, the option's there if you need it. At the back here, there is enough room just here to run air unit, and the kit comes with a TPU cradle for mounting that. On the top plate there on the underside is where you could mount a Vista, or if you are running an air unit you could put your receiver up there, or buzzers, or or Becks for powering your camera, all sorts of things. On the bottom of the frame here you can see that there's these stabilizers. That's to stop the quad from tipping over when you come in for a landing. Now, yeah, they're quite important really, because without them, yeah, it's quite easy to land and dip your props into the ground. So these are removable, not part of the bottom plate. So if you do break them and you want to replace them, it's nice and cheap and easy to do so. You don't have to replace the whole plate. Now, the kit also comes with these printed parts for mounting MMCX dual antennas from your DJI Air unit and an Immortal T mount there. That's just the cleanest and simplest setup that we recommend, and so the frame kit comes with those parts, so you haven't got to buy any additional parts unless you want to run a different setup like a GPS or SMA antennas, or if you want to run a Vista you will need different mounts, but they're all available to purchase or to download for free on the HaloRC website. And yeah, you can see here once it's all built up, looks pretty mean. Created these are called alpha mounts, so rather than having a carbon washer balancing on top of a press nut and then trying to mount 800 grams of weight on top of it, these just provide a really nice solid platform for mounting the Naked camera to. As you can see here, the Naked camera mounts on top of those alpha mounting points, and yeah, provides a perfect solution for mounting the Naked camera on without creating any excess vibrations. Okay, so yeah, I had recorded the entire video before doing this section, and then I realized that the majority of the video is just me talking about the frames I designed leading up to this one, and I didn't really talk about the final frame too much. So that's everything about the final frame, and if you want to stay tuned and learn about the other frames that I designed that led me to come to this final design, then carry on watching. Otherwise, take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Laters. Over the last 10 months I've actually designed and developed 6 completely different frames. When I say completely different, I mean completely different arm geometry, arm design, the way the arms interlock with each other, and just overall structure of the frame. So I really wanted to explore every possible option, that every different way I could go with the design to find the one that works the best. Back when I first designed the camera, I came up with this frame design. This was to get us in the air and get the cameras testing. I went for a proper X frame with the arms going to the middle of the frame, because that would just maximize flight feel. I'm a strong believer that X frames and arms that go to the center of the frame, they just feel better in the air. And of course it's an easy way to provide a lot of rigidity across the flight controller area, which helps a lot with reducing noise, and obviously will lead to a better flight feel and better flight performance. The issue with the arms going straight to the center is that that's the longest distance from the motor to the frame that you can do. Obviously it would be shorter if you just go straight to here, but the further away from the center of the frame you make the arms go, the worse they fly and the worse they feel in the air. They'll still fly fine, but they won't feel, you won't be able to do certain moves as well, simply because as that one raises, it's raising the other arm as well, because they're connected across here instead of the arm just going to the middle. Yeah, it just affects the way the quad can rotate. The longer the arm, the more vibration you're going to get. There's more leverage, there's more, that's just how it works, you know. You couldn't just keep making this arm longer and longer without bracing it. There's either two ways to help defeat the fact that these arms are really long. You can either brace them, so it's effectively making the arms shorter, or you can have the arms going straight in, going into the frame further away from the flight controller, effectively making the arms shorter and lighter, less leverage. You can make them skinnier, leads to loads of other small advantages as well. But as I said, this one was good enough to get us up in the air and get us testing the cameras and get those all developed and out. But I knew I needed to explore the other options of braced arms and having the arms moving away from the flight controller. I created these two designs that use braces to brace the arms and effectively make them shorter and stronger. That reduces vibrations, and I did see a big increase in flight performance in wind and high wind situations. The Pure X frame, I just couldn't really fly it in anything more than about 25-mile-an-hour gusts, because it would just shake around a lot, whereas bracing the arms like this really massively helped that, and they were really good for flying in all sorts of weather for that reason. So I knew I was onto something straight away, that making the arms shorter, either by effectively making them shorter by bracing them or by making them shorter going to the center of the frame, was the way to go. So the extra rigidity really did help create a much smoother flying platform for the Blackmagic, and you could fly in reasonably high winds without too much trouble and getting quite smooth footage. The only thing I didn't like so much about these ones is that because you've made the arms really short, it just, I don't know, it felt a bit more like a whoop where all four motors are connected and you can't really dip the arms as easily. It wasn't so bad on this one, because as you can see, like, the arm will come in here and the brace is just, it's only at about a 45-degree angle out from the arm, whereas with this one, with the 90-degree, it was kind of, I don't know, it just kind of made it feel like it wasn't able to rotate properly. So as this corner picked up, it wouldn't take long before it was like lifting the front. You just couldn't dip the arms, I should have it the right way up, you couldn't really dip the arms as nicely as you could with this one. But at the same time, neither of these flew as nicely as the Pure X frame. So I really knew that I needed to try and find a balance between making the arms shorter or braced and having the arms going straight to the middle. And man, yeah, super strong, this one. Like, it's so rigid, it's insane. But obviously, yeah, it adds quite a lot of weight, because you're doing the arms to the middle, but you're also adding these little bits as well. So maybe a little bit heavier than the others. Same thing with this one as well though. So yeah, after trying out the braced designs, I moved on to the third general concept, which was to move the arms further away from the flight controller, making them shorter, and just wanted to see how far away from the flight controller, and basically how between an X frame and a H frame, I was doing a hybrid between the two. It wasn't going to be quite a H frame because the arms weren't going to go straight across, and it wasn't going to be a true X because the arms weren't going to go to the middle. So I wanted to play around with how far away from the center of the frame could I have the arms join and it not badly affect flight feel and flight performance. So I'm actually going to have to show you this one all built up and ready, because it was yeah, these were the last two that I tested before moving on to the final frame. Obviously one thing that all the frames have got in common is that it uses the 90 by 124 mounting pattern for the Blackmagic. So because those points are static and I can't change, you kind of work around those. So this was as extreme as I could go by moving the arms away from the center of the frame, and I did that just by aligning them to go straight in where the Blackmagic mounts and then straight into the center of the frame. This made the arms as short as they could possibly be compared to going to the middle, saved about 1 inch of carbon fiber, and no need to brace because they're already quite short and going to the front of the frame anyway. And to stiffen that up, I used similar sort of thing that I use in on my Osiris and Archon V3, a spine. So extra piece of carbon that runs down the middle and braces all that center section to keep it all nice and rigid, just to help reduce noise going into your flight controller. Flies pretty good. One thing that I made sure that I did with the actual motor pattern, because there's one thing like where the arms are joining in the frame, but it's actually where the motors are as well. If I'd have made these motors a little bit closer together, you can see there's quite a big gap between the props. If I made these with only, say, a 10mm gap between them, that would make this even more of a H frame. So the arm would be coming in more like this. So by keeping the same ratio of the gap between there and the gap between there, the same as what I do on all my freestyle frames, yeah, it's about the ratio between the gaps that I like to keep the same, and I kind of feel like that helps retain some of the flight characteristics from my 5-inch freestyle frames. So this one was, as I said earlier, going to the extreme, moving the arms as far away from the center of the frame as I can, and yeah, it kind of turns into more of a H frame at this stage, which was what I was trying to avoid, because X frames just fly a lot better. They just do. And maybe a H frame is okay if you're putting like a giant Komodo on and it's just never going to fly that well anyway, but when you're going for a lightweight cinematic camera, you need the quad to be able to fly and perform like a freestyle drone, otherwise you're not going to be able to maximize the potential out of it. Really, you won't be able to do certain moves that you could with others. And yeah, I did find like it's just, you can't dip the corners as easily with a frame like this. It just doesn't feel quite as agile as an X frame. Moving on to this frame, you can see here that instead of having I wanted to move the arms a bit closer to the flight controller. So instead of the arms going straight through where the Blackmagic mounting points are, I had them coming off slightly off, just enough that all I needed was an extra little bump for the Blackmagic mounting points. Yeah, I just thought extra mounting point for the arm, it's going to keep them super rigid and stop any vibrations, but also give back a little bit of the flight feel. And between flying this one and the one that's already built up, yeah, I just couldn't help but feel that this one felt better. It just flew nicer. All of these I only have one setup, and I moved it between all the quads, so I knew that it wasn't going to be because of a setup change. So after designing and building and flying all these different frames, trying to find out which thing I thought worked the best, I knew that I needed to strike this balance between the arms being too far away from the center of the frame and keeping the arms shorter by not having them go directly to the center of the frame. By keeping the arms shorter, a shorter lever is just going to have less flex, so the shorter you can keep the arms, the less flex there's going to be, the thinner carbon you can use, the lighter the frame will be, the better it will fly, everything like that. So it was just more testing how much of a difference that makes. Now, I'm not saying that arms that go to the center of the frame are going to be a bad frame or anything like that. They're absolutely fine. So that's when I came up with the final version of the Horus. As you can see on this one, the arms don't all go straight to the center of the frame, but the way I've designed them is that the arms do go almost to the center of the frame, but because they have this kink in them, it allows the end of the arms to actually join further away from the flight controller. It's what I feel is the perfect balance between an X frame and a H frame, while providing the perfect amount of support for your naked cinema camera on top. Having the arms going straight through the same point as the Blackmagic is obviously, it provides a hell of a lot of firm support for the camera, but having them run just slightly off the arm like this, in my opinion, is the next best thing, because you're still able to bring these arms back towards the center of the frame and retain some of that flight feel that we really need to keep from 5-inch freestyle. The thing I like the most about designing things is not so much what I can do with them, but what I see other people doing with them. And this was easily the best move I've made since starting HaloRC, because I'm getting to see my stuff being used in bigger and better productions and all sorts of really cool and interesting projects. Okay, so there we have it. That's the HaloRC Horus frame overview. Just wanted to share with you the reasons why I made decisions on this frame and go over the basic points of it and what it's for. There will be a build guide coming out shortly where you'll be able to really see how it's put together and what makes it a bit special. And yeah, as I said earlier, head over to the HaloRC website where you'll see even more juicy details and a big write-up on the whole frame and all the key features of it. I just can't wait to see you guys build these up and start getting some awesome footage with it. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below. But for now, I'll see you in the next one. Laters.